it's Tangi here from Tangi Talks TV and Movies, and I just wanted to drop in quickly and tell you about a fantastic TV show I watched this week that I absolutely loved and that I think you might enjoy too. It's the Andy Warhol Diaries on Netflix, which is produced by Ryan Murphy, who brought us American Horror Story and Holston and so many other interesting shows. Now, the Andy Warhol Diaries isn't a drama, it's a documentary, and it uses the Andy Warhol Diaries as its basis. And so we hear all about Andy Warhol's life, the intimate details of his personal life in his own voice. And the show even uses an AI reproduction of his voice to provide the narration. Now, I'm interested in Andy Warhol, in art, and I've watched other documentaries about him before, but I've never seen one that gives such a full picture of him as a real person before. A real person as opposed to a persona, a public persona that he presented to the media. And the result of this portrait it creates of Andy is very touching and moving and really adds so much to our understanding of him. But I think where this documentary series differs from other shows I've seen about Andy in the past is it does take a queer perspective and it examines Andy's relationships with the men in his life, which are really interesting and quite touching. This series is also fascinating if you're interested in New York in the 60s and 70s and 80s, if you're interested in Studio 54, in pop art, in how street art became mainstream. And it does bring in all those other characters of the period, including Keith Haring and Basquiat and other interesting people from the time. But I think one of the most compelling aspects of this series is the interviewees they bring in to talk about Andy as they knew him. This includes all sorts of people, some you haven't heard of, but also celebrities who are pretty interesting in their own right, like John Waters, who I also like a lot. I found the Andy Warhol Diaries so compelling, I just couldn't stop watching it. And even when I was at work, I was thinking about it and couldn't wait to come home and watch more of it. I think there's about 3 or 4 episodes, but it's one of the most interesting documentaries I've seen in a long time. The only thing I didn't love about it was that AI voice simulation that I mentioned at the start. It's not 100% perfect and it does have a kind of robotic sort of Stephen Hawking sound to it, which could be a little bit off-putting. So if you can put that little tiny qualm to one side, I think you would still really love this show if you're interested in Andy Warhol, in art. So it's not only fascinating if you're interested in Andy, but also about a lot of the context of that period. I think this is the best thing I've watched lately. If you've watched anything really good on TV recently, perhaps you can drop me a note about it in the comments underneath. Thanks for joining me for this quick one today, and I hope I'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.